As we go about our daily lives, most of us are unaware of the everyday challenges that others in our community face. Some disabilities are immediately identifiable, but there are people whose struggles are not visible or obvious to others. How do we treat the disabled? Do we see the disability before we see the person? And if, as a society, our treatment of the disabled is a true measure of our civilization, what can we learn about ourselves? Follow us as we take an in-depth look at the work carried out by some of our local charities. We meet the people who have inspired, those who continue to inspire, and the many who freely give of their time, help, and love in the service of others. You cannot help others without also helping yourself. What is a disability? Is it only a physical or mental limitation? Or is it also the inability to see the abilities in others, to be unable to see beyond the wheelchair?
Matthew, you suffer from cerebral palsy,
Yes.
I understand. Tell us how that condition can affect a person.
It basically can affect you in many ways. It can either affect you in ways of really moderate or really severe. It can range from having an arm which doesn't function very well, or a leg, or basically the fact that you can't do basic things for yourself, like bathing, toileting, any number of aspects.
Andrew, your daughter suffers from cerebral palsy. So
Yeah.
was she diagnosed at a very early age?
Well, Lauren was born premature, and originally, after a couple of days after she was born, I'm just going to confirm, sort of 10 days after she was born, she went in for a scanner, and obviously it was confirmed that Lauren had cerebral palsy. And from then on, I suppose the last 10 years has been a challenge after another. The way I suppose we try and live through it at the moment is on a day-to-day basis, but we plan. Everything is planned. Anything that we're going to do, we start the day before and we plan it.
I understand that you were a student in St. Martin's.
Yes.
And then you went on to
Mainstream
schooling.
Yes.
How was that adjustment for you?
Quite honest, it was a struggle in itself, but not so much for the students. The students were fantastic. In fact, I was supported by my head teacher, Priscilla Sacramento, and my teachers, but the misinformation of certain teachers when it came to how we will deal with persons with disabilities. So I had to go to 5 different middle schools because they didn't want me as a student there.
Right.
Because the wheelchair was, in their opinion, which I understand, to be honest, a hazard for health and safety at the time. Although they weren't as health and safety savvy as we are today, but they were at the time. Given the fact I was the first with disabilities, it was a bit of a crisis moment. Oh my God, a disabled.
Yes.
How will we teach him?
Yes.
Because obviously she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, we didn't know the actual disability, whether it was going to be physical, whether it was going to be mental, was she going to be able to express her feelings. So that, I think, from the very beginning, from the first year, it was always like, let's see what the future holds for us, no? Because
It's
we didn't know
the uncertainty. Really.
exactly. We didn't know.
Because is it a degenerative disease?
No.
No.
As she was born so small,
The part of her brain, the ventricles.
The vessels in her brain burst, filled up one of her main ventricles, and it fills up with water. There was the damaged lines. So it's just a little bit of the brain that tells the brain to the muscle. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's what doesn't
So
work.
it's a coordination. She can move
She
all her
can't-
muscles.
but she can't coordinate.
She can't
so
coordinate
when she does something, she might move both arms at the same
Yes.
time because she can't coordinate.
Yes.
She coordinates like a baby does. She steps on her toes when she walks, but
Yes.
she can't stand on her own, sit on her own, because her brain doesn't allow it. Because that part of the brain is literally dead.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I'm more of I'm all for dialogue, but I'm not scared of having direct action if I have to. Basically, the best way I can explain it, I am a firm believer in order to make an omelette, you have to break eggs. And at times, the people with disabilities are very afraid of rocking the boat, and I'm not.
What are you campaigning for now? What is top on your list?
Well, quite frankly, what's top of my list really is the transposition into law of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Disabled. Because once we have that in place, the things that disabled people have now, right now it's out in the gift of the government. But once that legislation is enforced, it will become law, and therefore we will not be subject to the handouts of whoever government that might be.
So what do you want people to understand? Where do you feel that you're being misunderstood or not properly taken into account? Or considered?
The hardest thing is going out of your front door and meeting society in terms of that there's so many brick walls. Like you want to go somewhere and the ramp.
Go to a shop.
Exactly. She wants to go shopping with Lauren. She can't.
I'm gonna have to be the dog.
You have to be the dog.
Yes,
Wait
she's left
outside.
outside.
Oh.
Also, the brownie hut. That sometimes they go camping and I can't stay overnight, but I can stay in the daytime, but I can't stay overnight.
And you want to stay overnight, don't
Yes.
you?
The camping facilities for the brownies. She's going to be in Girl Guides now. It's not possible. So she stays there maybe until
Yeah.
8 until we pick her up because there's no facilities. Just things that
Yeah.
she's been left out literally in so many things.
All that makes me is a person that believes passionately in how we treat the most vulnerable is how we're going to be judged at the end of the day by history and by others. So the reflection of a good society is how we treat the most vulnerable, and that is in essence what I try to do. I try to treat people like I would like to be treated in their position.
Given what you've said, and I totally agree with what you've said, how do you think Gibraltar fares?
We can, and the thing is, although Gibraltar has economic restraints, which I am very well aware of, but being so small, we could do so much more.
Yeah.
Because there's no need for anyone to fall through the cracks. We're that small, okay, we can make a difference.
And we also improve the ramps.
The
Ramps.
ramps. The ramps are very important, of course. And there's many places that don't have them, no, Lauren?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that really has to be addressed, and the right ramps.
The other day we went to Sacarello's because it has a ramp now. We had tea.
I must say that Gibraltar has improved,
improved,
leaps
yes.
and bounds, but we're still lagging behind. There's so many things that people take for granted, like it's social things, but it's what actually life is about. It's what gives you enjoyment, and if you can't do them,
I've learned that life isn't necessarily a bed of roses, but life is what you make it. Not because you're disabled, the world owes you something. The world doesn't owe you anything. But that, in the same token, you always have something to give. No matter your disability, everyone has something. Whether it's a smile, whether it's just a nod or whatever, that person always has something to give. My life, in essence, is difficult, yes, but no more difficult than the next guy. I have different challenges, but I have challenges nonetheless. If I want to be treated as an equal, then I must be seen to be an equal. I can't just cry foul, oh, life is too difficult. No, you have to take the rough with the smooth.
and it's surprising that since the age of 2, she's always tended to look after her sister. She's fed her, she's done so many things, and it's like, wow.
I bet you love your sister.
Yeah.
Loads. And you, what do you think? Is your sister, is she a nice little sister? Is she a nice one? Is she good to you?
Yes.
Of course.
It was a butt.
And I think she's sweet and cute.
Sweet and cute.
She's
yeah.
sweet and cute. I think you're both just as sweet and cute as each other.
And at the end of the day, what is a label? Everyone's different. Everyone develops at a different stage. It's just a question of finding what that person is good at. Because we are very sort of quick to look for things that divide us. But we have many more things that actually unite us as people, you know, and as human beings.
Good afternoon, Tony.
My name is Tony. I lost my hearing suddenly about 9 years ago. And the experience I had when I became deaf was very dramatic. It didn't just affect me, it affected the whole of my family.
Hi, Tony. I'm here. You promised me to show me all the gadgetry you got here to assist you in your hearing. I wasn't born with tinnitus. I was 33 when tinnitus came into my life. And it got me by surprise. I had a normal life. I used to go clubbing, to concerts, enjoy my youth. And then suddenly, when I went to a concert at Cooran Legan here locally, Tri-Century Sports Centre, I think it was 2007, 2006, I felt pain in one ear, the kind of pain that when you get some air pressure in a cabin, and pain in the right ear, but it disappeared. It just lasted seconds.
I'll start with the doorbell,
Right.
which, because you didn't see it, but when you come in and you ring the bell, this will flash. I found myself being very isolated. I couldn't communicate by phone, I couldn't hear the doorbell. I still can't hear my grandchildren, you know. It was only when I was sent to the UK that I spent about 4 months there, where I was investigated and I was given counselling, and I was treated by the speech therapist to learn some lip reading, that I little by little came to terms with my situation. It's going to be like for the rest of my life. What I do have a problem is with the intercom.
It's a waste of time.
I can't hear the intercom, so if anybody can't, they have to text me, or if somebody's here, then they can hear it.
But fortunately, I soon realized after the concert had finished that that's this sound, this noise in my ear, very intrusive, weird, nothing that I've heard ever before. But I discarded, I dismissed it, saying, oh, tomorrow I'll wake up and I won't be there. And here I am, age 40, and still with the sound in my head.
This is my living room. I spend a lot of time here, and here I've got a loop system installed. You know, the loop is a magnetic field that goes direct to your hearing aid, and it takes away the background noises, so you hear the voices very clear. That's when you don't have background noises in the actual film, but anyway, it does help. So I can be anywhere in my living room and I can hear the TV. And that is done with this little box here, which I bought, which I control the volume and the tone of the loop. And it's got an input and an output. So the cable goes in from one way. I've got it, like I said, all around the living room and comes back in. Hearing aid help, but it doesn't solve everything. I need a lot of special equipment which I have bought to have a better quality of life, but that obviously is at home. At home I feel very comfortable. I wear my headphones or my loop system or my Bluetooth, whatever. But once I'm out in the public events, there's no communication, there's no assistive devices which you can. They're hearing aid friendly and they're wireless, and I've got special controls there for my left and my right. I'm completely deaf on my right, so everything is on the left. So when I wear this, and then I can be anywhere in the house and still follow what's being said on the TV.
I was very distressed at the beginning, to the point of being depressed. The local health service didn't help me at all. That's one of my main inspirations to actually starting this association, to help others with my experience.
Very useful. It's got the tone and the volume, and you're adjusted to your hearing level. But I can also connect a headphone there if I want to. It's got a thing at the back. Very useful. Most of the equipment that I have I bought in the UK, because there's nowhere in Gibraltar you can buy it.
There's no business locally?
No, there is now. In a couple of years, there's been a new place opened up, the ICC, and any things like that you might need, that they would be able to provide it for you. Whereas before, and I had a lot of problem with some of the equipment, like the loop, because it wouldn't be shipped to Gibraltar, so I had to send it to a UK address and then have it sent back to Jeb. But those little equipment helps. It doesn't...
Locally, nobody is actually giving you advice of what equipment...
All this I found out when I was sent to the UK. When I came back from England, I was adamant to make people aware that there are devices available and there are things that can help the hearing impaired. So I organised with Edgar the first Gibraltar Deaf Awareness Day, and it was incredible. Incredible the amount of people that came to us. I had all my devices spread out on display, and the amount of people that didn't know that those devices existed, and the amount of people hearing it. This, what you call a streamer. This one is basically for my make of hearing aid, but you have it for different makes of hearing aid. This works like a loop. With this, I can put the volume up, put the volume down.
Right.
I can connect to the loop system and Bluetooth. I've got a little box there on that
Which
side.
one?
That white one there.
This one?
Yeah. Okay, that's connected to the equipment there. So I can listen to the TV by loop, by the Bluetooth, or my iPad and my telephone. I can answer my phone from here, because with Bluetooth you make the connection and you're paired. So this I use a lot. When I go to meetings I use it if I need to put the volume up. But obviously not for a big conference or not, I mean, I can't do that unless I take my box with me and connect it to the PA system or somewhere. But nowadays, with all this new technology, I think that a lot of the public places should have that sort of assistive device.
Assistive technology to
Either
make things
Bluetooth,
easier.
or infrared, or loop,
Or
you know,
uses.
all the talks you get at the Macintosh Hall, all these talks at the Garrison Library, all this public function now that we've had.
Exhibitions. I used to enjoy silence. Silence now for me is fictional. I've got a new type of silence, a silence with a sound. A sound that the only way you can actually live with it is to make it as your companion, accepting the noise. The more you accept it, the less bothered you are about it, and the less intrusive it becomes. That's the key. And this is a message I try to tell everyone who suffers from tinnitus. Oh, the telephone. Somebody's calling. Get the phone.
Por eso necesito ser arreglado.
First of all, start telling us a little bit about your journey from when you were diagnosed at the beginning, which is about 3 years ago, I believe, to where you are at the present moment.
I went to bed at night and I was okay and there was nothing wrong with me. And the following day I woke up and as I tried to stand up, all of a sudden my balance was gone, my legs were wobbly, and I fell back onto the ground. And I thought to myself, maybe I hurt myself, and maybe it was a situation where I picked something heavy and maybe, you know, was causing like a small minor spinal injury. But these effects just never went away. And eventually I had to go to the doctors, and basically they had to put me through a series of tests, MRI scans of the brain, of the spinal cord, lumbar punctures, and finally a neurologist diagnosed me with multiple sclerosis. So, you know, I thought to myself, what is multiple sclerosis? I didn't know what it was. You know, I was clueless, and I was also worried. And basically, I started to research bit by bit multiple sclerosis, and I managed to meet up with Iris Giuliano, who also suffers from multiple sclerosis. And she was setting up a society. And basically, since then, I joined up with Iris in the committee of the Gibraltar Multiple Sclerosis Society. Basically, it affects people from the ages of 20 to 40 years old, and there's no cure for it. There are treatments with medications which actually can help the symptoms. Some of the symptoms are pins and needles, numbness. You also have spasticity, which is spasms, where you have shakes and everything else. You can have speech problems. You can have also eyesight problems, because it affects the optic nerve. So you can be partially blind with multiple sclerosis. I mean, like I said before, multiple meaning many, and so there's many symptoms. I think disability is a larger area. There's a larger picture when it comes to disability, and this is where I'm thinking, you know, you have the deaf and dumb, the hearing impaired. You also, you know, you have cerebral palsy. You have Rett syndrome. You know, there's so many illnesses out there which causes disabilities. Some severely, and others, you know, not so severely. And you've got the physical, obvious disabilities, and you've got the hidden disabilities. And so what I wanted to do was basically create awareness, and also, if something needs to be done, also, you know, try and put pressure of things actually getting done to help people with disabilities. And the only way to do that is actually uniting everybody on board.
The integration of another group, the Gibraltar Disability Council, coming into fruition. I spoke to Trevor, and we came to a conclusion, and others, that it was a pretty good idea, because we needed to come as one.
And it is through Facebook that I've come across also with Trevor Bickerstaff. He's been campaigning for multiple sclerosis, and we decided to meet one day. We shared our thoughts on really, you know, Gibraltar is such a small place, and there's so many different groups, different charities for disabilities, each doing their own work. We came to the conclusion that if we actually work together for a common goal,
is basically, let's start off the Gibraltar Disability Council. That would be a good name to call it. We can have a group within Facebook. I can actually come up with designs, and maybe Andrew as well, because he works with computers as well, and this and the other. So we can come up with a logo and a design and everything else. And basically, this group will be formed where we can represent every society. And if other societies eventually wants to come on board, they're all welcome to come on board. And we can also have people who are disabled or with disabilities which can come on board as well, because we would love to have loads of members, and if the members all, you know, had situations where they're suffering from disabilities, you know, I mean, they're all most welcome, because in the end of the day, this is not about us alone. This is about everyone.
Challenges can bring people together. Shared pain increases one's sense of solidarity and can also promote group bonding and cohesion. Trevor Bickerstaff is actively bringing people and groups together to exchange ideas, raise awareness, and unite with a shared understanding behind a common goal. These people are not pushed by their problems, but are led by their dreams. They know that alone we can achieve a certain amount, but together we can do so much more.